What's good, everybody? This is Channel from NYC, and today we're going to talk about We Are Who We Are, a new show, a new mini-series from HBO. Basic plot. In this show, we're following two American kids who live on a military base out in Italy. Based on what I found online in terms of the plot, it states that this is all taking place in 2016, but I'm just not sure as to if the setting actually holds weight to the plot or not. I'm really curious. The very first episode pretty much focuses on Fraser Wilson. He's one of our two teenagers. He is 14 from New York City, and he moves to this base with his two moms. So the entire episode is just him getting accustomed to the new country, the new setting, and us seeing how his personality does or doesn't really mesh well with the people, the culture, the space, all that. For the most part, he is a very interesting kid. I feel for him, because it already seems like he doesn't really fit in. So I'm like, if I was 14 or 15, like, would I be his friend? And part of me was like, of course I'd be his friend. He's very free-spirited, and as you know, clothing can be an expression of how you feel who you are, and you definitely see that he pops out with the fashion. There was even one scene he found himself at the house of this old Italian seamstress and her husband just vibing and making clothes in the sun, drinking wine, and he's like, oh, you know about Raf Simons? And I was like, like, why are we doing this? Leave this lady alone. But like I said, very free-spirited. Based off his energy, it feels like he did not grow up with a lot of restrictions or boundaries, and then now he's being thrust into the military. And you know, the military is all about discipline, structure, tradition, rules, respect. And he's like, excuse me? Like, you can tell that that's not something that he really aligns himself with. So the biggest mystery of all to me is the relationship with his mom. So his mom is named Sarah in the show, but she's portrayed by Chloe Sevigny. And honestly, she's such a chameleon when it comes to acting, so I'm excited to see her in this role. Sarah and Fraser have the strangest relationship. So there were 3 scenes that really stuck out to me. The episode pretty much starts off with them in the airport. It's like some luggage might have gotten lost, so they're just trying to figure things out with the rep at the front desk in the airport. While his moms are sitting here trying to figure things out, he manages, I don't even want to say he takes it from her, because she kind of gives him this little bottle, and I'm like, is that liquor? Like, you know, them little tiny bottles that can fit, like, it's smaller than the size of your hand, like smaller than your phone, you know, those little tiny liquor bottles. He had one of those, and he drank it like he just left Planet Fitness and didn't have water all day. And I'm like, okay, like, he's 14, this is kind of weird. But I lied to myself in my head. I was like, maybe it's not liquor, right? Okay, so that's strike 1. Later on, they're in their new home, they're looking around, they're setting things up, they're moving in, and his mom, Sarah, cuts her finger on something. Everybody's kind of looking like, is she good or not? Here comes Fraser, with no second guessing, immediately takes her bleeding finger and puts in his mouth to suck the blood, right? And I get it, but that's kind of weird. From that point, that strike 2, there was a weird dependency between the two of them, right? And I thought it was just him. So I was like, maybe he's just a weirdo and they just allow it, right? But then strike 3 is where I was like, oh, this is a deep issue. So the third strike takes place way later on in the episode. We're talking the last 5 to 7 minutes of the episode. The show's almost done. We find Fraser in the kitchen cutting himself a piece of, I think it's roast or something, and Sarah comes in and she's doing it for him. They're having small talk. He wanted a thin slice of meat. She says, no, you need more, because that's how you taste the flavor. And I'm like, she's probably right, you know, she probably worked hard on this roast. More back and forth, more back and forth. I hear him yell, that's not what I want, or something like that. Next thing we know, he slaps her. I was like, ooh. Looked at my mom looked at me, look at the TV. I've seen kids hit their parents before out of frustration, right? But what I saw from Sarah, his mom, was strange. I had never seen it before. She jumped back and then sat on the counter and looked like a 4-year-old in timeout. It was so weird. I was like, girl, if you don't snatch him up or tell him this is not right. And she just held her hand against her face and was like, I'm sorry. And I was like, whoa, where are we going with this? Clearly they have a very strange relationship. While he was talking to her, you know, it kind of felt manipulative, just oh, you hate me so much. And she's like, no, I don't hate you, kind of playing into it. And I'm like, I have to continue watching this show because I really want to know why their relationship is the way it is. Why do you allow your 14-year-old to drink liquor? I wonder if she thinks that she's making up for doing something wrong, and she's like, this is the way that I make things right, by just giving in to my son. It can't just be the fact that y'all moved to Italy from New York and he's mad about that. It feels like it's more than that. His other mother, I'm not trying to leave her out, but his other mother is Maggie, and she is portrayed by the Brazilian actress Alice Braga. Now, I'm also curious about his relationship with Maggie, because she doesn't seem to have that issue with him. Their conversation is pretty chill. I feel like there were a couple couple scenes where Maggie was trying to tell Sarah, like, yo, like, chill. Like, I think it might have been in regards to the liquor. She might have been like, yo, he's had enough. I'm just curious if they'll ever like get into it about parenting and everything, because even in the very beginning when they got into the house, there were documents to be signed when they first got into this new house, and one of the military wives was like, this needs to be signed, like an important document, and Maggie's character is like, oh, I got you, like, I'll sign it. And then the woman didn't even make eye contact with her. I don't think she was trying to be intentionally rude, but she was like, oh no, like, only a person who's like this can sign it. And so Sarah's character comes over and signs it, and Maggie looked pretty like hurt. So at first I was like, girl, chill, like, you know, maybe you're not a soldier or a part of the military, maybe that's why. But then later on we see both of them wearing their army outfits, so I'm like, okay, so clearly there's not like an equal ground, like it doesn't feel 50-50, even if the 50-50 is put in by both of them, just in terms of how they're perceived. There's a little rockiness there. Beyond that, in terms of relationships and characters, the other teenager is Caitlin, and she has 2 brothers, I believe. She's black, so you know we got some diversity up in here. Her character speaks Italian and English. She's lived there probably for a minute. It seems like the next episode is when Frasier and Caitlin will kind of come together and we'll see them and learn more about her. Another star of this show, we have Kid Cudi, but you know they write him as Scott Mescudi, so you know we gotta respect his acting gangster. We're not gonna call him Kid Cudi, but he portrays her father, and from what I read, he is not fond of gay people, LGBT, anything like that, because I have a feeling that when he sees Frasier's moms, he's kind of looking at them sideways. I feel like that's the vibe I got from the trailer. It's really interesting, and I'm scared a little bit because Caitlin is described as being closer to her father than to her mother, but based on what things look like around the end of the first episode, it looks like Caitlin might be bi or gay. Like, I remember she left her house and that's how Frasier knew to follow her with his weird self. She's at a bar or like this bar restaurant. These girls are hitting on her. They feeling her, whatever. So to know that her dad might have this energy towards the LGBT community, but your daughter is probably like an L or a B, I'm like, ooh, like, I'm nervous. I think he might think that it's Frasier's mom's rubbing off on his family or the community, and that's not even the case. In general, the setting is just super gorgeous. It's really nice to look at. I love the little stylistic touches, like the subtitles they add every once in a while. And sometimes, like, I'm not from anybody's film 101 class, so I don't know how to describe these things, but there's certain scenes where they like cut it, and I actually think that my TV's messing up or something, but it'll just be Frasier like walling out and it'll like cut the scene like while he's mid-air jump or something. I just think it's like really cool to look at, keeps it fun. I was talking about the show with my mom and she was just asking me if I liked it, and I just said yeah. It's just really wild to see how America has such a large presence in other countries, and she was like, aren't they in America? And I'm like, no, like they're not. And I think that actually speaks volumes. And don't come from my mom, she was multitasking, so let her be. Another thing I really like is the fact that the casting director had some common sense. They had some brain cells. We love to see it. They casted people to play teenagers who actually look like teenagers. Now granted, I'm not sure about the young lady, Caitlin, but Frasier is 17 in real life, I believe. I don't know if he's gonna be 18 this year, but he looks pretty young. He looks like your average 17-year-old from what I'm used to from my day back in the 1800s. He's supposed to be playing a 14-year-old. He looks like a 14-year-old. I'm sick and tired of seeing people who are between the ages of like 18 and 26 playing high school students. It's not realistic. And I've seen teenagers talk about how it's weird to watch movies, Netflix movies and things like that, where the teenagers, the 11th graders, are adults. We don't want to see that no more. Hire some kids, please. So thank you to the casting director of this show for having some common sense. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. I don't know if I'll do like reviews after every episode or not, but I just had to get these thoughts out because this first episode was a lot, and it definitely was enough to keep me wanting more for the next episode. So yeah, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time.